And then we hit share screen to this. And then we go present.
Awesome.
And then you can come over here and like, you can just move this down.
Can we do the oh wait, I can't see the people waiting if I'm in this mode.
Yes, but like I said, I'm going to
Okay.
try and log in right now, and that way you shouldn't have to
Perfect.
like really worry about that. And then you can do the thing where you're like hiding it completely.
Perfect.
Yeah, see, otherwise it'll just pop up right on your screen and you can just hit admit.
Perfect. That's easy enough.
Yes. So, okay, let me introduce you.
Oh, sounds good.
Hi, everybody. Technical difficulties. So happy you're here. So thank you, everybody who's here in the store and everyone who's with us on Zoom. I am going to log in on my phone so I can monitor questions and issues. So just remember to keep yourselves muted so that we don't get any interference and feedback. We've got our mic set up tonight, so you should have no problems hearing through the Zoom. And then everyone who's here in the store, thank you so much for supporting us, for supporting Matt. We're really excited about this book. And this is our last in-person event for 2021. So we do have 2 virtual events next week, one for Brene Brown and one for Ann Patchett. So if you're interested in either of those, please talk to one of us tonight before you leave so you can get your tickets. And as always, we will still have our book clubs for the rest of this month in December. And then brand new events coming in January and lots of fun stuff happening with the store. If you're not already getting our newsletter, please do, because that's the best way to stay informed. And now I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who knows everything about hiking in the Pacific Northwest. I couldn't even say any more than that. I'm not even going to read your bio, man. You're just the best. And we're so happy to have you here. And Matt Wasserdowski, everybody.
Awesome. This is so cool. Thank you so much. Before I get started, before I get into this, is everyone okay if I take the mask off? If anyone sounds good, thank you. I want to make sure that everyone's cool with that. Let's see. All right. How do it's not letting me go from, oh, this is in Zoom, isn't it? Oh, there we go. Okay. Still figuring this out. This whole I got so used to the Zoom stuff that I'm figuring this in-person stuff out now. It's kind of backwards. Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Julie. My name is Matt Wasserdowski. I'm so happy to be here tonight. I signed my very first book deal in 2018, and as soon as I signed it, I was already thinking about doing events like this. This is what I was most looking forward to. I love getting to share my passion for the Pacific Northwest with people. And then the book came out in July 2020. So here we are. This is so cool. This is my first in-person event. I'm so grateful for you all for being here. Julie, the crew of Roundabout, thank you so much for having me. It means the world to me that I'm able to share this with you all. And to the people who are in Zoom, let's see, we have a chat. Oh, I hope everything's looking okay. Oh, can the camera point up so we can see Matt? I don't know, can it? Or
No, because we're doing the share screen.
okay, perfect. Yeah, it's cool.
We'll do it at the end. Everyone
Okay.
will be able to see you at the end.
Sounds good. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here tonight. Thank you everyone who's joined in on Zoom. It means the world that you're here with me tonight. So let's get started. I am going to keep my hand away from that so I don't keep doing that. I am the author of Columbia River Gorge, and Mount Hood. Just rolls right off the tongue. This came out just on Tuesday. This was the 5th different release date that my publisher had given me since September. I don't know if you've heard, there's this whole supply chain issue affecting the entire global, the global markets. But yeah, super happy that it's here now. And tonight, what we're going to talk about, I am going to give you a month-by-month guide to the Columbia River Gorge and Mount Hood. Even if you're not super outdoorsy, you don't want to hike in summer, there's still plenty to do the rest of the year. So a little bit about me. Yeah, my name is Matt Wasserdowski. Let's see. Sorry, admit. Sorry about this. Trying to admit people into the room. There we go. All right, cool. Sorry, I'm a Mac guy, so I'm completely out of my depth here. Yeah, I'm Matt Wasserdowski. That's me up in the right-hand corner. I love Oregon more than any person should. I completely own it. It's okay. That is a birthday cake for Oregon in February of 2020 that one of my best friends bought so that we could celebrate properly. So I've been freelance writing since about 2014. I've written for Outside, REI, Northwest Travel and Life, Willamette Week, a few others. This is my second book. My first book was Moon, Pacific Northwest Hiking. Had an event for that with Roundabout over the last summer. And oh, that's right. Yeah, so much fun. So Moon, Pacific Northwest Hiking was 150 hikes, 75 in Washington, 75 in Oregon. I wrote the Oregon half of it, and Moon Oregon Hiking, which is the other book mentioned up there, just we took the Oregon half and made that its own book. So, okay. So with that, we'll dive into this whole book that I am promoting and talking to you about tonight. Moon, Columbia River Gorge, and Mount Hood. I was super excited to work on this project. The publisher reached out to me in December of 2019, said, are you interested in writing a guidebook to the Columbia River Gorge? And as soon as I woke up and pulled myself off the ground from passing out, I said, yes. What's up? Can they? Okay, cool. Super excited to share my love of the Gorge and Mount Hood with everyone. We have top experiences. If you've never been to the Gorge, if you've been to the Gorge 100 times, you want to know where to go, what to do, what to see, how to get there. The book answers all those questions and more. If you are into the outdoor adventure, the Gorge, Mount Hood has a little bit of it, just like hundreds of miles of hiking trails, world-class mountain biking trails, whitewater rafting, no big deal. Yeah, so it's super exciting. There's tons of outdoor adventure. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And then the best food and drink. It's really cool. Out in the Gorge, you have a ton of farmers, vintners, creative chefs. They're all putting together really inventive cuisine, a lot of really world-class restaurants. And there are several instances where you can eat farm fresh fare on the farm that it was grown on, which is a really cool thing. So with that, we'll get into the month by month. January, it's raining in the Gorge, it's snowing in Mount Hood, so we'll go skiing on Mount Hood. It has 5 ski resorts on Mount Hood. I think Government Camp, the highest elevation city on Mount Hood, gets 22 feet of snowfall every season. And you have a lot of really iconic ski destinations. Timberline Lodge, obviously that's pictured. You probably recognize it from either having visited or other guidebooks, or even watching The Shining, the Jack Nicholson movie, Jack Nicholson. It was built in the 1930s. It's a CCC project. It is one of the most photographed sites in all of Oregon. And the ski area at Timberline Lodge is really, it has, I think, like 3,000 feet of vertical drop. It is also the only place in North America where you can ski year round, which is pretty cool. You also have Ski Bowl just on the south side of Government Camp, where you can, where they have the most black diamond runs of any ski area in Oregon. Summit Ski Area, which is at the eastern edge of Government Camp, great for beginners. It is the oldest continuously operating ski area in Oregon, and it is the second oldest in the Pacific Northwest. So a lot of really cool history with the really great ski resorts on Mount Hood. February, it's kind of more of the same, right? So if you don't want to go downhill skiing, I'm not much of a skier, but snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, also on Mount Hood, tons of fun. Trillium Lake, that's what's pictured here, is one of my favorite places to go snowshoeing. I think you see a view like that and it's like, how could it not be, right? But you also have Teacup, I think it's Teacup Lake Snow Park. It has 12 miles of cross-country trails. They don't actually allow snowshoeing, so it's some of the best groomed trail anywhere on Mount Hood. You also have the Crosstown cross-country trail, which starts at the western edge of Government Camp, and you'll never believe this based on the title, crosses the town to the east side of Government Camp. Still really beautiful. So yeah, you have some really cool trails up on Mount Hood, even in the heart of February. It's a really beautiful place to be. If you do go and you go on a weekend, show up early. So this last winter was record-breaking snowfall on Mount Hood, or not record-breaking snowfall, excuse me, record-breaking visitation on Mount Hood. I think everyone was trying to stay outdoors and there were a ton of visitors. So if you do visit in wintertime, like maybe try to show up by 9 a.m. on a weekend day. March, all right, now we're getting to spring a little bit. It is one of my favorite times of year to be out in the Columbia River Gorge. That's because it is home to Waterfall Alley. I will get to Waterfall Alley, but the Gorge on a larger scale, let's see, the Sierra Club has said that it has the highest concentration of waterfalls anywhere in, I think, North America. And I think I did some research to like say, like, okay, like how many? And the closest I could get was about 90, which, wow, super impressive. And so what you have, especially on the Oregon side, I think that's where you find most of the waterfalls. Between Troutdale and the Cascade Locks area, you have the historic Columbia River Highway, which was built in the early 1900s, right as this whole tourism thing was taking off. And it was built and it was modeled on the really majestic romantic roads of Europe. They wanted sweeping curves. They wanted really incredible viewpoints. And I think anyone who's driven that road would agree that they hit the mark. One of the other really cool things, so I should say that section of the historic Columbia River Highway used to extend all the way into Eastern Oregon. I think it ended up going, at its longest point was about 200 miles. Today, there are about 3 sections in the Columbia River Gorge that are drivable. And I would say this section closest to Portland between Troutdale, the Cascade Locks area, also known as Waterfall Alley, is the most scenic of those. So the waterfall on the left here is Lateral Falls, which is a really beautiful waterfall that falls, I think it's about 200 feet in an amphitheater of columnar basalt. And then one of the really cool things about it, you get out of your car, you walk 3 minutes, and you're at the base of the waterfall. It's really beautiful. It's really easy to get to. The trail to get there is flat, but you can also turn it into a loop trail that heads up above the waterfall, and you can check out upper Lateral Falls if you so desire. Also beautiful, far less crowded than Lateral Falls. And then further east, you have obviously Multnomah Falls. I think y'all recognize that. 620 feet, I believe, and it is one of the tallest waterfalls anywhere in Oregon. The most visited natural attraction anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. And I think it's easy to see why, right? Like, good Lord, that is beautiful. Yeah, and I think March is a really great time to go because you're starting to get the snow melt. So these waterfalls are at like their thundering peak. Like they're really impressive year round, all year long, well worth visiting. But you get there in March, this is when the waterfalls are really just absolutely rumbling. April, spring colors. So spring colors in the Gorge and on Mount Hood, it kind of starts as early as March, and it actually kind of extends into July. In March, you have some of the destinations in the far eastern part of the Gorge, like Columbia Hills Historic State Park out in Washington has some of the region's most beautiful wildflower displays, and they show up as early as March. And then the further west you get, the later the wildflowers arrive. The photo on the left here is taken in late April on Tomahawk Point, out between Hood River and the Dalles in the Gorge. And it's a really great hike. It's about 1.5 miles up a really nice hillside. And then you end at this meadow covered in wildflowers with Mount Hood in the background. Like it's the kind of thing that like looks like it's out of a movie, even as you're there. And for those who have a copy of the book, I believe the cover photo was actually taken. There's a flatter hike from the same kind of trailhead area as Tomahawk Point, the Rowena Plateau right there. And I think that's where the photo was taken. So you can see it's a really beautiful place to go see wildflowers. And then as you kind of get later into the season, you get into April, May, June, you start to see the rhododendron, especially up on Mount Hood, which is what is in the right photo. And also, oh my goodness, gorgeous. So yeah, April's a good time to kind of catch. There are wildflowers in the Gorge. It's a really great time to start seeing the kind of beginning of that season on the west side, and then kind of heart of the season on the east side. May, wine tasting. So I will admit, not a huge wine guy. I can tell you the difference between a red and a white wine. Not much more. But I had some really great friends who kind of walked me through the process, and I got to go to some really great tasting rooms. And I would say May is a really good time to try the wines, because you have a lot of grapes grown in the Hood River Valley, which we'll talk about soon. You also have some grapes grown in the Gorge itself, and then on the plateau, kind of to the east of the Gorge. It's a world famous winemaking region, and you literally taste the fruits of the labor of the people who, pour their heart and soul into this. And I was really excited because I didn't know anything, and I get in there and I was really nervous. I'm like, I'm showing up in jeans, and the tasting room manager at the first runner I go to, she pours a glass, and I'm like, what am I doing? I take a sip. I'm like, what am I tasting? I'm just like, I'm out of my element. And then she's like, she calls the Gorge. She's like, no, man, this is Sonoma and Blue Jeans. She's like, it's, you know, we have great wine, but none of the pretentiousness. And at the very next winery we go to, there's a family where I think the mom was braiding her daughter's hair while the son, you know, the 6-year-old son is playing on a tablet. It's like, that's the vibe. It's cool. It's super laid back. So even if you don't know about wine, you're going to find something to love. And if you know a lot about wine, you're going to find plenty to love. May's a great time to go because the weather's starting to get nice. You're starting to get some of the first vintages of the year, and the wineries are starting to open up for kind of more extended hours. So, by the way, this was taken at the Grateful Vineyard in the Hood River Valley, which was one of the highlights of researching this guide for me. I think it's pretty clear why. Going into it, that one was kind of on a lark, and I was like, yeah, sounds good. They have wine. I'll give it a shot. You know, whatever I can do to research this book, you know. And then I show up and I see that, and I was just like, all right, and I can die happy now. So yeah, so May is a great time to go wine tasting. June is a great time to go camping on Mount Hood. The weather can be a little bit unpredictable, but then again, when I went camping for this guidebook up on Mount Hood, I was actually rained out in mid-August and actually hightailed it back home to Portland because I was like, this is miserable. Okay, that's okay. We'll let Lewis in. Yeah, it was a mid-August camping trip, and it rained so hard that I didn't even put my tent back in the bag. I just threw it into my back seat and came home. So, but that was in mid-August. Go in June, you know, fingers crossed. But anyway, there are 75 campgrounds in the Mount Hood National Forest, give or take a few. They're pretty basic. Vault toilets, no running water for the most part, so you don't have showers or hot water. Sometimes you'll have drinking water, but they offer a really cool chance to kind of get away a little bit, get away from the big city, and have this really cool outdoor experience in a really beautiful area. The landmark on the left is Little Crater Lake, which is as clear as, but far less famous than its cousin in Southern Oregon. It is, I think it's like 38 degrees year round. It's really beautiful. And it's maybe a 10-minute walk from the campground at Little Crater Lake. Again, a very rustic, primitive campground, but still really beautiful. The one on the right, you might recognize that as Trillium Lake, which is just an awesome year-round destination. I probably could have just done a month-by-month guide to Trillium Lake. And the first draft of this presentation, I almost did. Again, the campgrounds aren't on the short crater at Trillium Lake, but they're pretty close. It's, you know, 5-10 minute walk away. You have hiking trails, you have kayak and stand-up paddleboard rentals. It's also a really good place to go stargazing. Like, it's far enough away from the light pollution that you get some really beautiful night skies out there. So yeah, camping on Mount Hood. Also, you're getting there before all the summertime crowds, so you have a better chance of getting kind of your choice spot. July. Okay, so I'm going to take a swig of water because I might just spend the rest of the presentation on the Hood River Fruit Loop. I had been to the Hood River Fruit Loop before researching this guide once or twice, but actually getting to stop and spend some time out there was a revelation, to say the least. So for those who don't know, between the city of Hood River and Mount Hood, you have this really lush, beautiful valley that is the Hood River Valley. And along that, you have dozens of farms, markets. You have a cidery, you have a brewery out there. You have a lot of really great businesses. It's the Hood River Fruit Loop. There are 20 or so that are officially, 20 and 24 that are officially part of the Hood River Fruit Loop. And what you have are you-pick farms, markets, eateries, all kinds of, a few wineries, excuse me. A lot of really great places to spend an afternoon or a whole weekend. The Gorge White House here on the left, this was probably one of my favorite places of anywhere researching the guide. I had never been before researching, but then I went on it was a Monday in July. And I've never done the U-pick thing before, so I'm really nervous. I'm like, what do I do? Like, it's not complicated, but I was like, oh, what do I do? So I actually, like, I sit down with, before I got to that, I sit down with a flight of the house-made cider using ingredients grown on the Gorge White House farm. They also do wine. And then I had lunch. They have a food cart on site that has a really good quesadilla made with pears grown on the Gorge White House farm, which is like just such a cool and unusual experience that you just can't have very many places. And then I was super nervous and I went up to the U-Pick area and I'm like, I want to do this. I don't know how to do this. These berries are, I'm just so nervous. And the woman couldn't have been nicer. She's like, take this bucket, head out to you want to pick berries, head out here, take a left, pick to your heart's content. Don't pick from this row, pick from that row. And I think I spent half hour out there just picking berries, and Mount Adams is right that way. Mount Hood's behind me. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then I come back and I'm like, maybe a half pound of berries. Like I was really embarrassed. She's like, no, you did great. Like super encouraging. Like I'm a 6-year-old, but it was so much fun. So I took those berries and those became like my snacks, my post-lunch snacks throughout the rest of the day. Is I made my way to Foxtail Cider, which is the picture on the right. They do a lot of really awesome, creative, hard apple ciders. They also have a tasting room in Hood River as well. But their original tasting room on the Hood River Fruit Loop is a lot of fun. There was one of their ciders that they made with jalapenos that I was like, no, that doesn't seem like it's going to work. And then I tried it and it was phenomenal. So they probably won't have it on tap when you go back, but they're going to have a ton of other great ciders. And then in the middle, so you have farms, the cider maker, you have wineries we've talked a little bit about. You also have flower farms, one of which is Lavender Valley, which is this photo in the middle. And like, do I need to say anything? Like, doesn't that just sum it all up right there? Like, I got there in the middle of July, the lavender is in season, Mount Hood's out, it's a beautiful day. There are swarms of bees everywhere, but they could not care less about me. I think initially when I got out of my car, I got out of my car, saw all the bees, got right back in, but they don't care about us. They're there for the lavender. Beautiful place to take photos. They have a gift shop there with products that use lavender grown on the farm. So yeah, Hood River Fruit Loop, tons to see, do, eat, drink, you name it. Just a really beautiful part of Oregon to check out. Yeah, what's up? The Gorge White House is probably about 10 minutes south of Hood River on Highway 35. So like as you're coming out of town, there are signs. One of the really cool things about the Fruit Loop is that it's really well signed. So most of the major attractions, you'll see plenty of signs that will say, go this way, don't go that way. So yeah, highly recommend it. What's that? Yeah, Parkdale's a little bit further south. I always get my geography mixed up. Yeah, Parkdale's a little bit further south. It's kind of the southern end of the Hood River Fruit Loop. They have a really good barbecue place there, Apple Valley Barbecue, which I helped myself to once or twice or 5 times while researching this guide. Also a really good brewery, Solera Brewery, that they make some great beers and have a really tasty or a really great tasting room. But so August, it's like the hottest month of the year. What better way to spend it than to get on the water? The White Salmon River over in Washington. I've been given a little love to Oregon on this, but the Washington side of the gorge has a lot of really beautiful sites and attractions. The White Salmon River is a real big whitewater rafting destination, as you can see just by the sheer number of boats right there. And I think you can see why. They have a lot of really beautiful canyons that they'll raft through, and yeah, there's a lot to see. And if you're like, that's a little much for me, you can go paddling. You can go paddling on Trillium Lake up on Mount Hood, which I mentioned once or twice before. Timothy Lake, also on Mount Hood, is a really popular place to go boating. Tons of opportunities to get on the water. And also, I can't believe I almost forgot, Hood River is considered the windsurfing capital of the world. I don't know if y'all have heard this, because you have the kind of wetter, moister winds from the west and the drier winds from the east, and it creates this kind of wind tunnel that windsurfers from all over the world have come to Hood River. And it's like, you go down to the Hood River waterfront anytime between June and September, you are going to see dozens and dozens of windsurfers and kiteboarders on the water at any given time. Some outfitters do offer lessons if that is something that interests you. So yeah, whether you want a relaxing day on the water, a really fun day on the water, you can find it in the Gorge on Mount Hood. September, another one of my favorite places. I feel like I'm saying that about a lot of these places, but it's all true. Lost Lake, northwest of Mount Hood, sort of off the Hood River Fruit Loop, sort of up in the foothills a little bit, is Lost Lake. Fun story, it was named by a group of I don't even remember if they were explorers, but this group was like, we've heard about this lake that's up in the Mount Hood foothills. And they go and they can't find it. Eventually they find it nowhere near where they thought it was. And they decide it was actually the lake and not them who was lost. My, how things have changed. So yeah, today there's a cozy little adorable resort there. You can tent sites, RV sites, some pretty basic yurts. You have some lodge rooms at Lost Lake Resort, but I don't even think you get like cell reception up there. But still, it's really beautiful. Like this is the lake itself. That's Mount Hood. During the summer, you can rent all manner of watercraft and get onto the lake, which is a really fun thing to do. You can hike around the lake. That hike is in the guide. It's a really beautiful hike. There's also Lost Lake Butte, which is a really fun hike. You gain, I think like a few hundred feet in about 2 miles. And you have this view that it is across the Hood River Valley. You see Mount Hood, like the Hood River Valley is here and Mount Hood's right there. It's one of the most beautiful sites that I've ever seen on a hiking trail in Oregon. So September's a great time to go. So they open in March, but September's a great time to go because like the summertime crowds have kind of died down. So you kind of have the lake all to yourself. Temperatures are also a little bit cooler, which is nice. All right, October. How am I doing on time? Am I just speeding through this? Awesome. Oh, perfect. Yeah, cool. We're getting close. Yeah, so October, like watching the spawning salmon, I think we're all really lucky to live here in Oregon where that is such a thing, like being able to see the cycle of life play out in real time. And there are a ton of places, especially on Mount Hood, to go and do that. If you're on Highway 26, which skirts the southern edge of Mount Hood, there are several parks, including the Wildwood Recreation Site, which is what's pictured here. The photo on the left is the Sandy River. I always get that confused with the Salmon River. Not great for an author to admit that in his own talk, but that's fine. And there are some hiking trails there. You cross the river on this bridge, and then there's on the right-hand side, there is this kind of covered but semi-exposed building where you get to watch salmon actually swimming upstream in those windows. I researched that, and it was actually, I think, June or July. I couldn't make it in October, and there were even salmon there in June and July swimming upstream, which was really cool. So being able to kind of see that really cool, I guess, experience play out. There are tons of opportunities for doing so. Bonneville Dam is another popular place. But yeah, it's such a fun and really, I think, kind of important thing to experience, living in the Pacific Northwest. November's getting a little rainy, but there's still plenty to see and do. So I would recommend making a trip out of trying all the good food and drink up there. Up in the top left-hand corner, that is fish and chips from Brigham Fish Market in Cascade Locks, which is run by, I believe, 2 Native American angler sisters. They make some of the best seafood in the area. You can get it fried, you can get it fresh, and it was caught, like, you can see the Columbia River from the fish market. It's so awesome. Bottom left is the Skyway Bar and Grill up on Mount Hood. I remember after one of my days of hiking and just doing everything, just researching and running all over the place, I was hungry, I was hot, I was tired, and I had never been to Skyway, and I thought, all right, people seem to love it. And turns out, so they have a barbecue sauce that changes every day. It's a different secret recipe every day, so they say. And then they also make this baked macaroni and cheese that even if you're not a meat eater, it's like mac and cheese, like it's fine. No shots fired against mac and cheese, but like I could have just had like 2 bowls of that and I would have been happy. But they make really good food. They have an awesome outdoor area with a ton of fire pits. They host live music in summer. It's a really magical place. And if you feel comfortable eating indoors, they have a fireplace, a lot of really cool whimsical decor. Yeah, so maybe such good food. And then off on the right, that is a taster glass at Ferment Brewing in Hood River. There are so many good breweries in the Columbia River Gorge and on Mount Hood. If you are a beer fan, you will find plenty to love. Even along the Hood River waterfront, you have Ferment, which is here, which has, you go up to the 2nd floor, and if you go indoors to eat, you can look into the brewing facility, On the first floor, you can kind of look down to it, which is really cool. If you want to sit outside, there is a really cool gas fire pit and views of the Columbia River. It's great. It's so much fun. And then just down the street is Freem Family Brewing, which is pound for pound one of the best breweries in Oregon. They do all different styles. They're always changing the lineup up. But I think the next bad beer I have from Freem will be my first. So yeah, lots of good food and drink, and especially with kind of smaller crowds than it may be the summer or spring break peak. It's a good opportunity to get in there and try some of it. December, of course, holiday shopping. This is Packer Orchards. They have a store and bakery along the Hood River Fruit Loop with, so this is one of the kind of two main rooms. You can get salsas, marinades. You can, at some places you can get scone mixes, which I don't know why I was shocked to find artisan scone mixes, but I was endlessly charmed by it. Jams, jellies, honey, you name it. If you want to give someone a taste of Oregon, Washington, in this region, it's a really good way to do it. You have Packer is definitely one of my favorites, but you have several markets like that, not just on the Fruit Loop, but also in communities like Hood River and Stevenson, and that's over in Washington. So that's the presentation. Thank you all so much. I don't know if you want to hang out and ask questions. I'm happy to. Yeah, what's up?
Is the Fruit Loop A loop and B, is it located on the east side of Mount Good, that road that you take to the Mount Meadows and then come back here?
Yep.
That road from Hood River?
Yeah. So for the people who are on Zoom who might not have heard that, you're asking about where, basically, one, is it a loop? And then two, is it on the side of the valley with the road you can take to Mount Hood, which is Highway 35? Yes and yes. So what you can do is if you're coming out of Hood River on Highway 35, you can cut across to, I believe, 281 in Parkdale, and you can take that. That begins looping its way back toward Hood River. So you don't end at the same point, but you definitely end back in Hood River if you decide to do the loop that way. So, yeah. So the stern wheeler? Oh yeah. Yeah, they do the stern wheeler, I want to say March through October. That is still kicking. That departs from Cascade locks. They have a few different rides depending on how long you want to be on the boat and what you're interested in. I think maybe some of the boat tours are more like history focused. Some of them are more dining focused, but yeah, definitely still going strong. Oh yeah.
So Matt, I know with your previous book, we talked a lot about the crust trail and everything.
Yes.
With that. Are there any of these hikes that we're going to need that pass for?
So the hikes in here, on Zoom, for the people who didn't hear that, they were asking, Julie was asking about which passes you might need for hiking. And I think in the Gorge, the main one is the either Northwest Forest Pass or the America the Beautiful Pass. Those are recreation passes for federally owned and managed public lands. So you can get day passes, you can get annual passes at retailers all around the region. Also, there are a couple of questions on the chat.
I think it's just, well, it's me telling people that they can pass.
Oh, perfect. Oh, you're following that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Trying to help.
No, I appreciate that so much. Yeah. Oh yeah. And I feel bad. There Washington, so for the people on Zoom, I was asked if it includes the Washington side, which is a great question because I talked so little about it. We do have a handful of hikes, and then I do include sections on Stevenson, which is a really beautiful little gorge community. Also Columbia Hills Historical State Park, which has some like pictographs that date back thousands of years, and there's a really cool story behind those that you can just walk right up to. Yeah, so there's a chapter on the Washington side. It definitely, one of the cool things about the Washington side is that it has a lot of the smaller communities in the area. So you don't get maybe the same crowds that you'll find in Hood River, but you still get this really cool kind of off the beaten path experience in this really beautiful region.
They're the same thing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, absolutely.
staying at the Timberline Lodge?
Oh yeah. So for the folks on Zoom, the question was about staying at the Timberline Lodge. Yes, the rooms, you can definitely stay there. Would definitely recommend. You can get, a midweek stay a couple weeks out in summer, but in wintertime, I definitely recommend making reservations at least a couple months out. But yeah, you can stay there. The rooms are really nice. They're really opulent. You have, I think, five eateries at Timberline Lodge. Yeah, it's remarkable. Yeah, absolutely.
John wants to know what was your favorite thing you ate during the research?
So what was my favorite thing that I ate during my research? Okay, so at the Grateful Vineyard, the really beautiful tasting room up near Mount Hood in the Hood River Valley, some friends and I got pizza that had pears that were grown on the farm out there. And it was one of those things where the pizza was put down in front of me and I had, I had some wine, I had a beer, and I was like, there is no way I'm going to finish this. And then I had a slice and was like, there is no way I'm taking home leftovers. Yeah, the Grateful Vineyard, that was really, the freshness of it, the flavors of it, it was really fantastic.
So I can't remember who the grower is,
Mhm.
but I know that they use those pears to make like a excellent pear brandy. There are a ton of
Ooh.
distilleries.
Yeah.
that use a bunch of the fruit from out there for like hyper local spirits.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's always like it's just remarkable how you can have breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, and then have drinks. And so much of that was grown or produced in the Columbia River Gorge or Hood River Valley. It's just so incredible. Like, where else do you get to have that experience? It's so awesome. Yeah. What's up?
Do you have a favorite place that you stayed at while you were in?
Favorite place that I stayed at
Or you camped at?
or camped at?
I don't know.
Yeah. The Hood River Hotel in downtown Hood River. It was, I think it's been a hotel of some sort since I want to say the 20s or 30s, and it's in a historic building. But it's one of those places that's been kind of upcycled or whatever the phrase is. It's super chic. It's a really beautiful hotel. Some of the rooms have views of the Columbia River. You're right in the heart of downtown Hood River. It's so beautiful. And then they have a restaurant at the base. The hotel restaurant there's actually a Portland chain. I think it's the third of 3 locations, 2 of which are in Portland, that serve like Scandinavian food. And I went there for breakfast multiple times on trips to Hood River. It's fantastic. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Broder is
Sorry.
so fantastic.
Their
Yeah.
salmon chowder will change your life.
Yeah.
So good.
Absolutely.
I only had one on Clinton in Portland, but
Mhm.
so good. Lewis wants to know what's your favorite brewery out there.
Oh,
You're picking the hard one.
yeah. I gotta say, so favorite brewery I would say would be Frame. They just I think one of my favorite memories from researching this guide, it had been a really long day. Like I have had a really low risk tolerance. I researched the entirety of this guide during the pandemic. It was a stressful time to say the least. But there was a day where I get to the end of the day, I'm super tired. I've had dinner and I'm just like, I don't want to drive back to Portland, not just yet. And Frame has a to-go window. And I got a Belgian wit and a crowler. And this is one of the cool things. Hood River has no open container laws. You can walk around Hood River with a beer, a can of beer or wine in your hand, and that's totally legal. What's that? Yeah. One of 3 cities in the United States. Yeah. And also New Orleans. Yeah.
One of 4 cities, like you can in Vegas, New Orleans, and Hood River.
Yeah.
New Orleans, Hood River, Vegas, and the town in Virginia.
Yeah. Right. It's yeah. But it's so funny when I reached out to the government in Hood River to ask about that, to like make sure that was true and make sure I understood the law before I put anything about that in the book. I asked if there were any open carry laws in Hood River, and I got a very different response than I was expecting. But we sorted it out. It was all good. But yeah, so freeing that afternoon, that evening, I've had dinner. I get a can of this really good Belgian wit and I take it across to the park that is literally just across the street facing the Columbia River. I sit on a bench, I sip the beer, I watch the sunset, I watch the river, and it was really magical. So yeah, that was one of the coolest experiences. And the fact that it was freeing, which just makes so many good beers across so many styles, was such a treat. Yes, it was. So the question was about how to sort of research this during the pandemic with all the closures. And yeah, it was really difficult. For food, there was a lot of eating outdoors, taking food back to my car or back to the hotel room where I was staying for the night. Because for a large majority of this, I signed the contract and started working on this book in April. My publisher, to their never-ending credit, had said, back in February when they first said, hey, is this something, do you want to move forward with? And I said, yes. And then as the pandemic hit, they said, do you want to push this back or just cancel it altogether? And I was like, well, we'll flatten the curve, be out of this in no time. It'll be fine. We got this. Famous last words. So April, when I started working on the book, the historic Columbia River Highway was closed to the public. There was a checkpoint where you needed to show your ID and proof that you lived along that area to actually explore it. So that was a real, it was difficult. So yeah, food wise, I spent a lot of time eating just as far away from people. A lot of places were just setting up takeout menus. So that was different from what they had served, before. So it was really difficult, for sure. And I never found a happy medium. It was kind of by the time, I feel like every time that I would go back out, I was trying to avoid people, try to stay safe, regulations were changing, it's, fairly often. But it was by the time that I felt like I navigated all that, the research for the book was done and I turned it into my publisher, and I just never found a real balance. But so that was one thing, the Hood River Fruit Loop was really nice because I was able to spend time on farms away from people. And at the Gorge White House, when I was there, it was getting crowded out there. And this was still when it was outdoors. Is that okay? We think so, but who knows? So when I was getting a little bit nervous, that's when I started picking. It was just out there by myself. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough. But what's that? Oh, you'd think Hood River. I have never seen Hood River busier. Yeah, because I think people weren't flying anywhere last summer. People weren't taking these big, long road trips. And so I think everyone in Portland would come out to Hood River, and I would try to time it. I'd go out on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I really tried to avoid some of the bigger communities on weekends, but even then it was, yeah, no, I had the same thought. I was like, well, it'll maybe I'll get away from the crowds a little bit. No, never happened, unfortunately. So, but yeah.
Well, excellent. I mean, I think that's answered everybody's questions.
Awesome.
Online. And again, I just want to thank everybody. So yeah, if you want to purchase the book, Jenny will be right up there. Matt will sign any ones that you guys want, and then we'll keep a couple signed copies. So send your friends and let them know this is also on our YouTube channel.
Yeah,
so,
awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. You want to handle this part?
Sherry wants to know if any of the restaurants were dog friendly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ton
so
of them?
dog friendly
Oh, yes,
restaurants.
been there for
Yes. Tons of dog friendly restaurants. I think I tried to make a point of saying when certain places were or weren't. Honestly, I can't remember. But yeah, a lot of, especially the ones with outdoor dining, were especially dog friendly. So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All
well, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. So should I close this or should I just